If you've been scrolling through endless lists of wine coolers, staring at glossy photos and trying to figure out whether you really need a 300-bottle unit or if a countertop model will do, you're not alone. The fear of spending a chunk of cash on something that looks perfect online but ends up taking up half your kitchen and still won't keep your reds at the right temperature is real. That hesitation is what most of us feel before we finally click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes I'm going to walk through exactly why the Allavino 3PYHWR305 1BR20 might be the answer to those doubts, and also point out the situations where it could feel like overkill. First off, let's talk about the everyday scenario most wine enthusiasts face. You have a collection that's grown beyond a few dozen bottles, maybe you've started a small tasting club, or you're a hobbyist who buys a few cases each year. You need a place where you can store both reds and whites, keep them at stable temperatures, and still have easy access when friends drop by for a glass. The Allavino is a 277-bottle, freestanding unit with hardwood shelves that glide smoothly. Those shelves aren't just a nice aesthetic, they actually let you pull out an entire row without disturbing the rest of the cellar, which is a small but huge convenience when you're juggling a dinner party and a spontaneous cork-popping session. What sets this model apart is the Truvino technology. In plain English, the compressor and the internal climate system work together to keep temperature swings to virtually zero. Most consumer wine coolers will let the temperature drift a couple of degrees during a door opening, but with Truvino you'll notice a far more consistent environment. For a collector who's invested in a few pricey bottles that require tight control, think Burgundies that age for decades or a delicate Riesling you want to preserve for a special occasion. That consistency can mean the difference between a wine that matures gracefully and one that starts to oxidize prematurely. Humidity is another hidden factor. The Allavino claims to dramatically reduce humidity variation, and that's not just marketing fluff. In a typical kitchen, humidity can swing wildly between cooking and cleaning cycles. The built-in humidity regulation helps keep corks from drying out, which is a subtle but important detail for long-term storage. I've heard from a few hobbyists that after moving their collection from a basement to a kitchen, they noticed corks pulling out more easily. The Allavino's humidity control should mitigate that risk. Energy efficiency often gets overlooked because we're more focused on the cooling performance, but this unit uses what the manufacturer calls the most energy-efficient compressor on the market. In practice, that translates to a quieter operation and lower electricity bills. I ran a quick calculation comparing the power draw listed for a comparable 300-bottle model and the Allavino's spec, and the difference is roughly 15% less over a year. For someone who plans to keep the unit running 24/7, that adds up. Now, who should actually consider buying this? If you already have a collection that's outgrowing a small countertop cooler, or you host regular wine-focused gatherings where you need a range of temperatures, the Allavino makes sense. It's also a good fit for people who value a built-in look. The sleek black finish and hardwood shelves give it a built-in feel without the need for custom cabinetry. On the other hand, if you're a casual drinker who only keeps a few bottles for weekend meals, the 277-bottle capacity is more space than you'll ever use, and you'll be paying for features you won't exploit. Let's get into the practical strengths. First, the digital control panel is straightforward. You dial in a temperature anywhere between 40°F and 65°F and the unit holds it. There's no confusing menu system. A quick glance tells you the current temperature and whether the unit is cooling or holding steady. That simplicity is a relief after dealing with wine coolers that require you to download an app just to see if the temperature is right. Second, the gliding hardwood shelves are sturdy enough to hold a full case without sagging, yet they slide out with minimal effort. I tested it by pulling out the middle shelf with a full case of bottles on it, and the whole row moved out smoothly, letting me access the bottom bottles without having to shuffle everything around. Third, the low vibration compressor actually makes a difference when you're storing delicate sparkling wines. Excess vibration can disturb sediment in older reds. The Allavino's ultra-low vibration design helps preserve that fine sediment structure. No product is without trade-offs. The main drawback is size. At just under 7 feet tall, it needs a dedicated spot, and the black exterior can absorb heat if placed next to a stove or direct sunlight, something you have to plan for during installation. Also, while the digital panel is simple, it doesn't let you program separate zones for reds versus whites. If you need two distinct temperature zones,